Like as you sit down and you evaluate that question, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is mainly is okay.
Hey, Nomad. You've had your hand
Hello.
up a while.
Hey, yeah.
Thanks
So
for
I would like to speak about pest control, hunting, and the Texas hog crisis, and whether or not it's correct or not. Um, so yeah, I like how I don't know who put it that way, but it was like some people who don't have access to vegan or otherwise plant-based diets or diets with
that
only
me.
plant. You did a good job putting that, Snow.
Thank you.
Because we live out in the country, and it is not very. It is a I want to say 5 mile trip to a store that has no, it's way more than 5 miles to a store that actually does have vegan options. And we live out here on our own. We have one chicken. Her name is Becky. She is my pet. Um, and let's see here. We don't have really the resources to continue those trips weekly, because we don't make very much. We don't sell animals. We don't sell um, anything really. My dad, his job is basically he runs stocks and stuff. But the thing is, all right. So I'm sorry.
It's okay. What does that mean for you? So your
So
original claim was pest-based hunting. What does that mean?
okay. So say the Texas hog crisis. We have a huge problem here. Crops are getting destroyed. In some areas, we've had crops ruined because of hogs. They're an invasive species here. I've actually narrowly lost a friend to one. Um, and I've heard some people protect them. I wonder what you guys' standpoint on that is. At the
Pierce,
end of the day, go ahead.
you want me to go first?
Sure.
So I myself am not a vegan. However, I understand where you're coming from because I'm originally from Arizona. And in Arizona, we have an issue with coyotes. The same way that you guys would with hogs. So I understand the need for it, and especially as you're stating that, hogs go out and destroy the land that we would grow our vegetables on in order to continue this the vegan based movement that we're experiencing right now. So I would say personally I am pro it, but it needs to be done humanely. That's the
Yes,
key. And I don't even know if that is
it,
possible.
it's a cost-effective scenario, because you got to think not many people are supporting that, and it is quite expensive to capture and euthanize. Not only that, but it is very difficult to do such. Um,
What
let's.
about you,
Mhm.
Pierce? What is your thoughts on it?
I think it's similar to yours. I think ideally, if it could be done without killing them, like that's great. Like move them somewhere else, do something. I don't know that that's feasible or possible. I don't know anything about it really. But that would be ideal. But if that can't be done, you can't have wild animals running around hurting people. Ideally, not crops either. That's not good either.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if harming them is the only
Yeah.
option, and I guess that's the only option, but I'd much prefer a different one.
Yes. The other options would be quite difficult, but I wouldn't say that it's impossible. It would surely be very difficult, though.
So
Mm.
what would be another option in order to do this more humanely? Like obviously there's the catch and release. Do you think that that's feasible?
I don't know, because catching them and releasing them where? Where are we releasing them? Are we giving our problem to somebody else? Are we not doing anything to solve the problem? Are we spreading the problem? And or is it truly worth it?
So when you say is it truly worth it, what does that mean to you?
It means that at the end of the day, there's hundreds of billions of these things, and they are overpopulating very quickly. Would it just be a better option just to get rid of them in some areas? You know, by killing or other sorts? Would it just be, you know, more of a better option?
What do you think? Like as you sit down and you evaluate that question, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is mainly is the cost. Okay, do not take offense to this. What goes through my mind is the cost of a 223 versus the cost of exporting said creatures to another area where they're most likely either going to be killed or held for a while, because it would definitely be a waiting line scenario where if we're exporting hogs into an area where we're euthanizing, I'm going to start with the euthanizing first. If it's in that sort of area, it would be a waiting line, and it would be hogs or pigs, however you wish to put it, waiting for days and days and days for their execution, which would be like waiting in a prison. If someone was to ask me where I would wish to die, I would wish to die where I liked to be. Say they love, where they are. So I don't know at this point.
Hmm.
So I decided to ask if it was, or not, what other people would think.
Pierce, do you have anything?
Yeah, I got one last thing.
Yes, sir.
So these hogs do some destructive things. What is
Yes, sir.
what is the most destructive thing that bothers you the most that they do?
The most destructive thing that they do is they root, which is basically where they dig out these huge, like, they basically clear out and eat a land or like an area. Probably, I want to say they can clear 100 yards within about maybe a month. And so you got to think, if you're having 100 hogs or more, as in for our case, an estimated over 1,000 in our area, we are losing almost a mile per, I want to say, per 3 months if we did not take a offensive.
When you say they root and they dig, are you talking about like crops?
Yes,
Okay.
they root inside the crops, and they just basically dig out a flat spot.
Okay. And when you observe this happening or hear about it or whatever, uh, what's your feelings about it?
is it is frustrating. It is evidently kind of sad that they were, imported here years ago, and then what we think happened is that they were imported in years ago, and then they just started inhabiting the area and became invasive because there really isn't natural predators that can take them out. But evidently it's a loss of money and it's a problem.
Okay.
I have a
so I'm here.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pierce.
I'm hearing that you feel frustrated, sad when you observe or hear about the hogs doing this. Uh, what's the source of? I mean, I know you made the observation, but what's like the underlying reason behind like this frustration and the sadness? I guess there's something a little bit deeper.
Because you got to think, it's like we've been in a scenario where, when we moved here, we were trying to get our stuff to grow, and we first started in a smaller area, and I know how it feels to have it constantly cleared out, and losing money. And, it got to a point where we were choosing between, really choosing between eating or, continuing to keep the home.
Okay.
It was a not really choosing, but it was a very close call. I know that a lot of other people or our friends, our neighbors and stuff, how frustrating it is to them having to go out, replant that spot, or, all that.
I hear you. Okay. So it sounds like this frustration and sadness, the kind of the underlying piece is kind of you need to this land and these crops seem to support your family financially, and
Yes.
obviously that affects your well-being, and you want you and your family to be well off.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing. Does that sound about right? Did I recap that about accurately?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you could ask anyone to do something about the situation, what would it be?
If I was to ask somebody else to take care of our problem, are you asking me what do you think they would do, or
What you would like them to do?
I would really prefer that we didn't really have to kill them. It is very sad, or how it is done, because as somebody who has, evidently it's getting on the back of trucks, and it's the most efficient way is getting on the back of a truck with a gun, and you just drive into a herd of them and let loose, and that is not very humane, but it is efficient. I have attempted to stay off that kind of stuff. My dad's kind of letting me do my own thing now and stay away from that, because I've told him, I was like, no, I don't really want to be on the trucks. I'm good. I would rather stay here. All that, make excuses like I'd rather play my games. But I do know that that's what would happen if I asked somebody else to do so. I would just rather that we didn't have to really literally mass murder them.
Do you
Well,
have,
you covered That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if there was a feasible way to have this done, provided to you. Would you take it? It sounds like the answer
It
probably.
was feasible, cost effective. And, we're putting them to an area where they're actually supposed to be. Like, you got to think the Burmese python, like, that's not where it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be in Florida or in the Everglades. It was somewhere else originally. If we can put them back where they originally were, the problem would be taken care of by, evidently the natural predators in the area, because that's where they're supposed to be. So yeah, I'd probably take it.
Well, that's all I got.
Okay.
Yep.
Last question. How do you think the conversation went?
I will admit I was a little nervous. So you guys did a great job with tolerating how I word things. I'm sorry that I word things a little bit strange.
I didn't think so.
You guys, thank you, sir.
Oh.
You did a really good job. You all, or both of you, did a very great job. I think the conversation went well. I've definitely retained a couple of things.
Did you learn more about kind of why you formed your opinion on this matter?
Yes, I really did. After actually getting to say it to somebody who was, not one of my dad's flunkies, that is, all for it. I got a different perspective, so to speak.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much
All right.
for coming up. We'll move on to the next caller.